Zara's small spaceship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of the unknown planet. Red warning lights flashed all around her. The ship's computer spoke in a calm voice. Warning. Critical system failure. Prepare for emergency landing. Zara gripped her seat tightly. Her heart raced, but her face showed no fear. She had trained for this. As a human explorer, she knew the risks of traveling to uncharted worlds. But nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. The ship crashed into a dense jungle. Metal screeched and trees snapped. When everything finally stopped moving, Zara opened her eyes. She was alive, but her ship was destroyed. She pushed open the damaged door and stepped out. The air was thick and humid. Strange, colorful plants surrounded her. In the distance, she heard odd animal cries. Great, Zara muttered to herself. Just another day at the office. She checked her gear. Her spacesuit was intact, and she had enough food and water for a few days. Her communication device, however, was broken. Guess I'm on my own, she said, trying to stay positive. Zara started to explore the area around her crashed ship. She needed to find a high point to survey the land. As she walked, she felt like something was watching her. Suddenly, she heard a low growl behind her. Zara turned slowly. Her eyes widened in shock. There, standing on a fallen tree, was the most terrifying creature she had ever seen. It was twice her size, with sharp claws and teeth that looked like they could cut through metal. Its scales shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Zara's mind raced. She recognized this beast from her studies. It was a Vorax, known as the galaxy's deadliest predator. No one had ever survived an encounter with one. The Vorax leaped towards her. Zara dove to the side, barely avoiding its massive claws. She scrambled to her feet and ran. The jungle blurred around her as she sprinted for her life. But the Vorax was fast. It chased her, crashing through the undergrowth. Zara could hear its heavy breathing getting closer. She saw a small opening in some rocks ahead. Without thinking, she dove into it. The space was barely big enough for her to squeeze through. The Vorax roared in frustration. It tried to reach into the small cave with its claws, but it couldn't fit. Zara pressed herself against the far wall, her heart pounding. For hours, the Vorax stayed there, occasionally trying to reach her. Zara knew she couldn't stay in the cave forever, but for now, she was safe. As night fell, something unexpected happened. The Vorax sat down at the entrance of the cave. It wasn't trying to attack anymore. Instead, it seemed curious. Zara watched it carefully. The creature tilted its head, studying her. She had never heard of a Vorax behaving this way. Slowly, carefully, Zara inched closer to the cave entrance. The Vorax didn't move. It just watched her with its large, intelligent eyes. "You're not going to eat me?" Zara asked, knowing the creature couldn't understand her. To her surprise, the Vorax made a soft chirping sound. It wasn't aggressive at all. Zara's explorer instincts kicked in. This was an opportunity to learn about a species no one had ever gotten close to before. She reached into her pack and pulled out some of her food rations. Slowly, she held it out towards the Vorax. The creature sniffed the air. Then, very gently, it took the food from her hand. Zara couldn't believe what was happening. She was feeding the galaxy's most feared predator. As the Vorax ate, Zara noticed something on its leg. It looked like an injury. Maybe that's why it hadn't attacked her in the cave. It was hurt and tired. Without thinking, Zara reached for her medical kit. The Vorax watched her curiously as she took out some bandages. "I'm going to help you," she said softly. "Please don't eat me." Slowly, carefully, she reached out and began to treat the Vorax's wound. The creature stayed perfectly still, letting her work. As Zara finished bandaging the leg, she realized something amazing had happened. She, a human, had just made first peaceful contact with the Vorax. She looked into the creature's eyes and saw intelligence there. This wasn't just a mindless predator. There was so much more to learn about this species. Zara smiled. Her mission had just become a lot more interesting, and dangerous, and wonderful. "Well," she said to the Vorax, "I guess we're friends now. What do you say we explore this planet together?" The Vorax made another soft chirp. Zara took that as a yes. And so began the most unexpected partnership in galactic history. The next morning, Zara woke up to find the Vorax still sitting at the entrance of the small cave. It hadn't moved all night. Zara rubbed her eyes, wondering if she was dreaming. "You're still here," she said softly. The Vorax tilted its head, watching her with those intelligent eyes. Zara knew she had to leave the cave. She needed to find food and water. Slowly, she crawled towards the entrance. The Vorax moved aside, letting her out. Once outside, Zara stretched her sore muscles. The Vorax stood nearby, its injured leg looking better after her treatment. "Well, big guy," Zara said, "I guess we're stuck together for now. Let's see if we can find some breakfast." She started walking, and to her surprise, the Vorax followed. It moved quietly for such a large creature, its shimmering scales catching the sunlight. As they walked, Zara's mind raced. How could she communicate with this creature? She remembered her training in sinolinguistics, the study of alien languages. "Okay, let's start with the basics," she said, stopping and turning to the Vorax. She pointed to herself. "Zara," she said clearly. Then she pointed at the Vorax and raised her eyebrows, waiting. The Vorax made a series of clicks and chirps. Zara tried to copy the sound, but it came out all wrong. The Vorax made a noise that sounded almost like a laugh. "Hey, I'm trying my best here," Zara said, smiling despite herself. They continued this game as they walked. Zara would point at things, trees, rocks, the sky, and say the word in English. The Vorax would respond with its own sound. By midday, Zara had learned several Vorax words, even if she couldn't pronounce them well. The Vorax seemed to enjoy the game, often making that laughing sound when Zara messed up. They came to a stream, and Zara knelt to drink. The Vorax watched her, then lowered its head to drink too. As it did, Zara noticed something strange on its neck. It looked like a metal collar hidden under the scales. "What's that?" she asked, reaching out slowly. The Vorax stayed still as she examined the collar. It had strange symbols on it, unlike any language Zara had seen before. Suddenly, she had an idea. She pulled out her datapad. It was cracked from the crash, but still working. She took a picture of the symbols and ran them through her translation program. To her amazement, some of the symbols matched an ancient galactic language. The collar wasn't just decoration. It was a translation device. "No way," Zara breathed. "You can understand me, can't you?" The Vorax nodded its massive head. Zara's excitement grew. "But you can't speak my language. That's why you haven't talked back." Another nod. Zara's mind raced with possibilities. If she could fix the collar, or connect it to her datapad somehow, they might be able to truly communicate. She spent the next few hours tinkering with the collar and her pad. The Vorax watched patiently, occasionally helping by moving its head when she needed to reach a different part of the collar. Finally, after what felt like 100 adjustments, Zara's datapad lit up. A robotic voice came from it. "Translation matrix engaged." Zara held her breath and looked at the Vorax. "Can you understand me?" she asked. The datapad crackled, then spoke in that same robotic voice. "Yes, human Zara. I can understand you." Zara jumped up, laughing with joy. "It works. This is amazing." "Your excitement is amusing." The Vorax's words came through the pad. "I have many questions for you, as I'm sure you have for me." Zara nodded eagerly. "Why didn't your people eat me? Everyone says the Vorax are mindless killers, but you're clearly not." The Vorax made a sound that the pad translated as a sigh. "Your kind has much to learn about us. We are hunters, yes, but not mindless. We value intelligence and bravery. You showed both when you helped me despite your fear." Zara felt a warmth in her chest. She had judged the Vorax too quickly, just like the rest of the galaxy. "I'm sorry for how we've misunderstood your people," she said. "I want to learn more. Will you teach me?" The Vorax nodded. "And in return, you will teach me about humans. Together, perhaps we can change how our people see each other." As the sun began to set, Zura realized this was more than just a survival situation now. It was the beginning of something much bigger. A chance to bridge the gap between two species that had always feared each other. She looked at the Vorax and smiled. "I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship." The data pad translated the Vorax's response. "I believe you are right, Zora of Earth. Our journey together is just beginning." As days passed, Zara and the Vorax, whom she now called Crix, grew closer. They explored the dense jungle together, learning about each other's cultures and abilities. Zara was amazed by Crix's strength and keen senses, while Crix admired Zora's problem-solving skills and adaptability. One morning, as they were foraging for food, Crix suddenly froze. His head snapped up, ears twitching. "What is it?" Zara asked, her hand instinctively going to the makeshift spear she carried. The translation device crackled. "Ships," Crix growled. "Many of them. Coming this way." Zara's heart raced. Could it be a rescue team? But why would Crix sound so worried? They quickly made their way to a high ridge. From there, they could see several sleek spaceships descending through the planet's atmosphere. They weren't the simple rescue ships Zora had hoped for. These were military vessels, heavily armed. "Those are Galactic Council ships," Zora said, her voice filled with confusion. "But why would they send a military fleet here?" Crix's answer chilled her to the bone. "They are not here to rescue. They are here to destroy." "Destroy what?" Zara asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "Us. The Vorax. All life on this planet." Zara shook her head in disbelief. "That's impossible. The Galactic Council is supposed to protect species, not destroy them." Crix let out a low, sad growl. "It is the truth, Zora. My people have long suspected that the Council fears us. They believe that if we ever develop space travel, we would be a threat to the galaxy." "But that's ridiculous," Zora exclaimed. "Your people are intelligent, capable of friendship and cooperation. I've seen it myself." "You have," Crix agreed. "But the rest of the galaxy sees us only as monsters." As they watched, the ships began to spread out, covering different areas of the planet. In the distance, Zora could see flashes of light. Weapons fire. "We have to do something," Zora said, her mind racing. "We need to stop them. Show them they're wrong about the Vorax." Crix turned to her, his large eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. "You would stand with us against your own kind." Zora nodded without hesitation. "The Vorax are my friends now too. And this isn't right, no matter who's doing it." Together, they formulated a plan. Zara remembered seeing an old communication tower near where her ship had crashed. If they could reach it and send a message to the wider galaxy, they might be able to expose the Council's actions. The journey to the tower was perilous. They had to avoid Council patrols and survive in a jungle that was quickly becoming a war zone. Zara was grateful for Crix's strength and hunting skills. More than once, he saved her from danger with his quick reflexes and powerful claws. As they neared the tower, they encountered a group of young Vorax, hiding from the Council forces. Crix spoke to them in their clicking language, then turned to Zara. "They say there is a Council command ship landed near the tower. It's heavily guarded." Zora bit her lip, thinking, "We need a distraction. Something to draw the guards away so I can get inside and send the message." Crix nodded. "My people can provide that. We are not helpless prey, despite what the Council believes." They spent the night planning with the other Vorax. Zara was amazed by their intelligence and teamwork. These were not the mindless beasts she had once believed them to be. As dawn broke, they put their plan into action. The Vorax launched a series of coordinated attacks on the Council forces, drawing them away from the command ship. In the chaos, Zara and Crix slipped through the defenses. At the ship's entrance, Crix turned to Zara. "This is where we part for now. I will join my people in the fight. You must send the message." Zara nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Be careful, Crix. I'll see you soon." As Crix disappeared into the jungle, Zara took a deep breath and entered the ship. She had a galaxy to save and a truth to reveal. The real monster, she now realized, wasn't the Vorax. It was the prejudice and fear that had led to this moment. With determination in her heart, Zara made her way to the ship's communication center. It was time to show the galaxy the truth about the Vorax, and about humanity's capacity for understanding and friendship, even in the face of fear. Zara's heart pounded as she raced through the corridors of the Galactic Council ship. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed all around her. She had managed to send a short message, but it wasn't enough. She needed to get to the main communication array to broadcast the full truth to the entire galaxy. As she turned a corner, she came face to face with two armed guards. Without hesitation, Zara ducked and rolled, using the move Crix had taught her. The guards, surprised by her agility, fumbled with their weapons. Zara took advantage of their confusion and slipped past them, running faster than she ever had before. Outside, the sounds of battle echoed through the jungle. Zara worried about Crix and the other Vorax. Were they okay? She shook her head, forcing herself to focus on her mission. Finally, she reached the main communication room. The door was locked, but Zara remembered a trick she had learned in her explorer training. She pried open a panel and rewired the circuits. With a satisfying click, the door slid open. Zara rushed to the controls, her fingers flying over the unfamiliar buttons. She had to work fast before more guards arrived. Just as she was about to start the broadcast, a deep voice behind her made her freeze. "Step away from the controls, human." Zara turned slowly. A tall, imposing figure stood in the doorway. From his elaborate uniform, she could tell he was a high-ranking council official. "You don't understand," Zara said, her voice steady despite her fear. "The Vorax aren't what you think they are. They're intelligent, kind, capable of friendship. We've been wrong about them all along." The official's face twisted with anger. "Nonsense. They've clearly brainwashed you. The Vorax are a threat to the entire galaxy. We're doing what's necessary to protect everyone. By committing genocide." Zara shot back. "How does that make you any better than the monsters you claim the Vorax to be?" For a moment, doubt flickered across the official's face, but then his expression hardened. He raised his weapon. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you interfere with our mission." Suddenly, a blur of motion rushed past Zara. Crix appeared, positioning himself between Zara and the official. The Vorax's scales were scratched and dirty from battle, but his eyes blazed with determination. The official stumbled back in shock. It's one of them. How did it get in here?" Zara stepped forward, placing a hand on Crix's shoulder. "This is my friend, Crix. He risked his life to help me, to save his people. Does this look like the action of a mindless killer to you?" The official lowered his weapon slightly, confusion clear on his face. "But all our reports were wrong," Zara finished for him. "Please, just let me send the message. Let the galaxy see the truth." After a long moment, the official nodded slowly. "Do it, but know that you'll have to answer for this to the full council." Zara turned back to the controls, relief flooding through her. With Crix by her side, she began the broadcast. She told the galaxy about her crash, her friendship with Crix, and the truth about the Vorax. She showed video footage of the council's attack on the peaceful Vorax villages. As she spoke, Zara could see the official watching Crix with a mix of fear and fascination. Crix stood tall and proud, every inch the noble creature Zara knew him to be. When the broadcast was over, Zara turned to the official. "What happens now?" The official sighed heavily. Now we have a lot of explaining to do. And you two have a long journey ahead of you. Zora looked at Crix, who nodded in agreement. They had taken the first step, but their journey was far from over. They needed to go to the Galactic Council headquarters to speak for the Vorax and change minds across the galaxy. As they left the ship, stepping out into the chaotic aftermath of the battle, Zara felt a mix of exhaustion and excitement. The path ahead would be difficult, filled with danger and challenges, but as she looked at Crix, she knew they could face anything together. Ready for our next adventure? She asked her Vorax friend. Crix made a sound that Zora had come to recognize as laughter. With you, Zora of Earth, every moment is an adventure. And so, the unlikely pair, a human explorer and the galaxy's most feared predator, set off on a journey that would change the course of galactic history. Their friendship was proof that understanding and compassion could bridge even the widest gaps between species. The real adventure, Zara realized, was just beginning. The journey to the Galactic Council headquarters was long and filled with challenges. Zara and Crix traveled on a small ship provided by the remorseful council official. As they crossed the vast expanse of space, they faced not only the physical dangers of space travel, but also the prejudice and fear of those they encountered. At every stop, beings of all species would stare and whisper. Some ran in fear at the sight of Crix, while others tried to attack, believing they were saving the human from a monster. Each time, Zara stood firmly by her friend's side, showing the galaxy that humans and Vorax could not only coexist, but also form deep bonds of friendship. Finally, after weeks of travel, they arrived at Celestia, the shining capital planet of the Galactic Council. As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Zara gasped at the sight of towering crystal spires and floating gardens. Crix, seeing the city for the first time, let out a low whistle of amazement. "It's beautiful," Zara said, "but remember, appearances can be deceiving. We've seen the darkness hiding behind the council's shiny facade." Crix nodded, his scales shimmering with nervous energy. "Whatever happens, Zara, I am honored to face it with you." As they landed, they were immediately surrounded by council security forces. The guards approached cautiously, weapons raised, eyes fixed on Crix. Zara stepped forward, her voice loud and clear. "We come in peace. We're here to speak to the full council." A tall, elegant alien stepped forward. She had shimmering blue skin and 4 arms. "I am Sela, Chief of Council Security. Your message has thrown our government into chaos. The council has agreed to hear you, but be warned, many still believe the Vorax to be a threat." Zara and Crix were escorted through grand hallways, past curious and frightened onlookers. Finally, they entered the Great Chamber, where representatives from every known intelligent species in the galaxy sat in tiered seats. The room fell silent as Zara and Crix walked to the center. Zara could feel the weight of thousands of eyes upon them. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Honored members of the council, I am Zora of Earth. Beside me stands my friend, Crix of the Vorax. We are here to challenge everything you think you know about his species." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zara continued, her voice growing stronger. "The Vorax are not mindless killers. They are intelligent, emotional beings capable of friendship, compassion, and peace. The attack on their planet was based on fear and misunderstanding, not fact." One council member, a reptilian being, leaned forward. "But human, how can you be sure you haven't been deceived? The Vorax are known for their cunning." Crix stepped forward, causing several council members to flinch. But when he spoke, his voice was calm and clear through the translator. "If deception was our goal, would we not have already conquered your worlds? We have had the strength to do so for centuries. Instead, we chose isolation, hoping the galaxy would one day understand us." An avian council member fluttered her wings nervously. "But your fearsome appearance, your natural weapons, surely you must see why we feared you." Zara jumped in. "With all due respect, Many species here have natural weapons. Some of you could kill with a touch or a thought. Yet we don't assume you're all killers. Why should the Vorax be judged differently? The chamber erupted in debate. Some council members nodded in agreement, while others argued loudly. Zara and Crix stood firm, answering questions and challenging assumptions. Hours passed. Finally, the head of the council, a wise old being with glowing eyes, raised a hand for silence. We have much to consider. This council has clearly made grave errors in judgment. We will need time to deliberate on this new information. Zara stepped forward once more. While you deliberate, I have a proposal. Let a delegation from the council return to the Vorax homeworld with us. See for yourselves the truth of their civilization, and let us work together to repair the damage done and build a new era of understanding. The head of the council nodded slowly. A wise suggestion. It shall be done. As they left the chamber, Zara felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. They had been heard, but the real work was just beginning. She looked at Crix, seeing the same determination in his eyes. Ready for the next challenge? She asked with a smile. Crix made a rumbling sound that Zara now recognized as laughter. With you by my side, my friend, I'm ready for anything. Together, the human and the Vorax walked out of the council chambers, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store for them next. Their unlikely friendship had taken the first step towards changing the course of galactic history. The journey back to the Vorax homeworld was tense. Zara and Crix traveled with a delegation of 5 council members, each from a different species. The ship was filled with an uneasy silence, broken only by the occasional question directed at Crix, which he answered with patience and dignity. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Zara gasped. The lush jungle she remembered was scared by the recent attacks. Smoke still rose from some areas. This is what fear and misunderstanding can do, she said softly to the council members. Their faces showed a mix of shame and shock. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, panic evident in their tone. We're under attack. Rogue council forces have followed us. Zara's heart raced. Rogue forces, what does that mean? The head of the delegation, a tall crystalline being named Zix, explained quickly. Not all council members agreed with our decision to investigate. Some still believe the Vorax must be eliminated. They've taken matters into their own hands. The ship rocked as it was hit by weapons fire. Crix growled, his muscles tensing. We must land and protect my people. The pilot managed to land the ship in a clearing. As they exited, Zara saw 3 enemy ships descending, their weapons primed. We need to stop them, Zara shouted. But how? Crix turned to the council delegation. You've seen the truth about us. Will you stand with us now? There was a moment of hesitation. Then Zix stepped forward. We will. Our mistakes have caused this. We must make it right. What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Vorax warriors emerged from the jungle, their natural weapons and incredible speed making them formidable opponents. But they didn't fight alone. Zara used her quick thinking and knowledge of technology to help coordinate the defense. She managed to hack into one of the enemy ships, disrupting their communications. The council members, each with their own unique abilities, joined the fight. Zix used their crystalline body to reflect enemy fire. Another member, a gaseous being, clouded the enemy's vision. Crix was a blur of motion, his powerful claws and teeth taking down enemy after enemy. But he wasn't killing them. Instead, he was disabling their weapons and restraining them. Zara found herself back-to-back with Crix, facing down a group of enemy soldiers. Just like old times, huh? She said with a grin. Crix made his rumbling laugh. I prefer our quieter adventures, my friend. As the battle raged on, something incredible happened. The enemy soldiers began to hesitate. They saw Vorax fighting alongside beings from across the galaxy. They saw a human standing fearlessly with the creature they'd been taught to fear. One by one, The enemy forces began to lower their weapons. The tide of the battle turned not through violence, but through the power of understanding. As the dust settled, Zara, Crix, and their allies stood victorious. The enemy commanders were taken into custody by the council members. Zix approached Zara and Crix, their crystalline face shimmering with emotion. "We owe you a great debt. Your bravery and friendship have opened our eyes. The galaxy will know of this day." Crix nodded solemnly. "We do not seek vengeance for what has happened. We seek only understanding and peace." Zara looked out over the battlefield, seeing Vorax helping injured enemy soldiers, council members talking with curious young Vorax. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We have a lot of work to do to rebuild trust." As the sun set on the Vorax world, Zara felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. They had faced seemingly impossible odds and emerged victorious. But the real victory wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the minds and hearts of those who had seen the truth. Crix put a gentle claw on Zara's shoulder. "Thank you, my friend. You have changed the fate of my people." Zara smiled up at him. "We did it together. Human and Vorax, showing the galaxy what's possible when we look past our fears." As cleanup began and plans for rebuilding were made, Zara knew that the story of the human who befriended the galaxy's most feared predator was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but with understanding and friendship, anything was possible. The stars shone brightly that night, promising a new dawn for the galaxy, a dawn of understanding, acceptance, and unlikely friendships. 1 year had passed since the battle on the Vorax homeworld. Zara stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling spaceport of New Harmony, the first city in the galaxy where Vorax and other species lived side by side. The city was a testament to how much had changed in just a year. Crix joined her, his scales gleaming in the sunlight. "Thinking deep thoughts, my friend?" he asked, his voice now smooth through the advanced translator he wore. Zara smiled. "Just amazed at how far we've come. Remember when everyone ran screaming at the sight of you?" Crix made his rumbling laugh. "Now they only run screaming some of the time. Progress." Their laughter was interrupted by a young Vorax rushing up to them, excitement clear in its movements. "Ambassador Zara, Elder Crix, the first group of Vorax students is ready to depart for the Galactic Academy." This was a moment they had worked hard for. The integration of Vorax into galactic society had been challenging, but moments like these made it all worthwhile. As they made their way to the spaceport, beings of all species nodded respectfully to Zara and Crix. Some even waved or called out greetings. It was a far cry from the fear and hostility of a year ago. At the spaceport, a group of young Vorax stood nervously by their ship. They were the first of their kind to leave their homeworld to study alongside other species. Zara felt a surge of pride as she looked at them. "You are about to embark on an incredible journey," Zara addressed the group. "Remember, you're not just students. You're ambassadors for your people. Show the galaxy the true nature of the Vorax." Crix stepped forward. "But also remember, you have nothing to prove. Be yourselves. Learn, grow, and make friends. That is how we build a better future for all." As the young Vorax boarded their ship, Zara noticed a group of reporters approaching. Even after a year, the story of the human who befriended the galaxy's deadliest predator continued to fascinate people. "Ambassador Zara," one reporter called out, "how do you respond to those who still fear the Vorax?" Zara thought for a moment. "Fear comes from not understanding. I'd encourage those people to get to know a Vorax. They might be surprised at what they find." Another reporter turned to Crix. "Elder Crix, there are rumors of Vorax being invited to join the Galactic Council. Can you comment on this?" Crix nodded solemnly. "We are in discussions. The Vorax wish to take our place in galactic society, to contribute our strengths and learn from others. But such things take time." As the interview continued, Zara reflected on how much had changed. The Vorax, once seen as monsters, were now respected members of the galactic community. It hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments of fear on both sides. But step by step, they had built trust. After the reporters left, Zara and Crix walked through the city. They passed a school where young Vorax played alongside children of other species. In a market, a Vorax herbalist sold remedies made from plants of their homeworld, their stall busy with customers of all kinds. "Sometimes I still can't believe it," Zara said softly. "All of this from one crashed ship and an unexpected friendship." Crix nodded. "It shows the power of looking beyond appearances, beyond fear. One person can change the galaxy, Zara. You proved that." As they reached the center of the city, they stopped before a new statue. It depicted a human hand and a Vorax claw, joined in friendship, the plaque read, "In honor of Zara of Earth and Crix of Vorax, whose friendship opened a new chapter in galactic history." Zara felt tears in her eyes as she read it. Crix put a gentle claw on her shoulder. "We still have much work to do," he said, "but together there is nothing we cannot achieve." Zara nodded, smiling up at her friend. "Together," she agreed. As the sun set on New Harmony, casting a golden glow over the city, Zara and Crix stood side by side, a living symbol of what was possible when beings chose understanding over fear. Their unlikely friendship had changed the course of galactic history, opening the door to a brighter, more inclusive future for all species. The adventure that began with a crashed ship and a moment of unexpected kindness had blossomed into a new era of galactic cooperation, and for Zara and Crix, it was clear that their greatest adventures were still to come.